1. I live in a very rural part of the UK, where everyone knows everyone and everyone is in everyone's business. Think Hot Fuzz, but with less murder, more positive aggression, but the same number of swans. Just one. This story isn't actually about me, but my very sweet 65-year-old auntie, who is currently renovating my recently deceased nan's house in this very hot fuzzian village. Now, about a month into her starting work, she gets some new neighbors, who we shall refer to as the Townies. No guesses why. A number of minor incidents occurred between my auntie and the Townies, despite my auntie's best efforts to make for good neighborly relations. So already not in good terms, the one day my auntie goes into her field with the horses is next to her house, to find the Townies walking their 2 dogs off the lead. Now, there is no public right-of-way through this field, and you shouldn't be walking dogs off the lead with horses in the field anyway. My auntie was on her high horse about this, confronting the Townies, who were completely mystified and protested that this was the countryside, and it isn't possible to own fields, and that in fact, people were allowed to walk wherever they wished. After a lot of explanations that you could in fact own a field, and that my auntie did in fact own this very field, the Townies proceeded to insist that my auntie, who they had been very rude to, that they should be able to walk their dog in the horse field as it is backed onto their property also. So they had as much right to that field as her. They don't, she owns it. My auntie was fed up at this point and actually said no, she would rather they didn't walk the dog in that field or the orchard that they owned, and took time to explain how footpaths worked, so they could walk their dog safely. Up until this point, I'll allow the Townies that they may simply not have grasped that you can't just walk wherever you want in the countryside. However, over the following month, they got caught by several other farmers walking through fields with animals in without permission to go in there, so I think they just thought the rules didn't apply. Now, this is where it gets really entitled. The builder helping at my aunt's new house has a dog, who at lunch walks his dog in my auntie's orchard. The Townies noticed this and one day proceeded to bang on the door of my auntie's house, demanding that the builder not be allowed to walk his dog in that field. My auntie didn't really understand what was going on and asked why on earth he couldn't. To which they screeched that if they couldn't walk their dog there, then no one should be allowed to, and that she was discriminating against who she allowed to access her field. This continued on for weeks, as my passive-aggressive little auntie proceeded to allow everyone in the village to walk their dogs in the field, with next door getting angrier and angrier, even confronting people who were there to walk their dogs until, and in all geniuses, they stopped renting and moved back to the town. I want to add to this that there were so many local safe places to walk their dogs on the lead where we live, and had they not been rude and irresponsible with loose dog in the field with the horse, my aunt definitely would have been fine with them using the orchard. 2. I know there are lots of other stories like this, but I'm reminded of my own. When I was younger, back when home phones were still a thing, I was really ill for months at a time. I missed out on half a year of school due to illness. Now, because I was home all day, I was there to answer any calls our home phone got. Every now and again, I would get a call and answer it how I normally would. "Hi, so-and-so here, how can I help you?" And every time I would get, "Hi, can I please make a reservation for 6 p.m. tonight?" Or, "Hi, just checking, is this restaurant in Melbourne?" After about 15 plus calls of people believing this number was some restaurant in Melbourne, I googled the restaurant name. The number that Google suggested was for some reason my home phone number. When I went onto the actual website of the restaurant, I could find their actual number, so I called them to let them know that Google had messed up, and I kept getting calls on behalf of this restaurant. They apologized and told me they would look into it. Even still, I continued to get calls for like a month before Google eventually got around to changing it. One of the more memorable days was Valentine's Day. I kept getting a call every half hour. Every time I would say, "Sorry, but Google actually has the wrong number," Listen, to find the actual restaurant number, go to their website and you can find it. Now, this worked fine for most people, but there was this one lady who didn't seem to get the message. Keep in mind, I was a sick and tired, sassy 14-year-old girl who worked at Kmart when I wasn't sick. She called frantically, stating that she absolutely needed a reservation for 7 p.m. that night. Fucking trying to find a goddamn Valentine's reservation 6 hours beforehand, and what seemed to be a pretty nice restaurant in the heart of Melbourne, Australia's most highly populated and nicest cities, informed her that I actually wasn't the restaurant and to find their number on their website. Apparently this was too hard of a task for this lady's small brain to comprehend.
But you're the number Google gave me.
Yes, I know, madam. Google accidentally made an error because my phone number is 1 digit different to the actual restaurant. Google has been informed and they are in the process of changing it.
Can't you still make a reservation for me?
No, ma'am. I don't work there. I don't even live in the same state as the restaurant.
How ridiculous. This is absolutely appalling customer service. If Google is going to list your number as the number for that restaurant, I'm going to expect some level of customer service and assistance.
Now, please understand that I hadn't had a full meal in over 4 months, as any food that went into my system came straight back up. I was tired, sick, constantly hungry, and this lady had interrupted my game of solitaire. So I let it rip. Excuse me, bitch. I'm not affiliated with that restaurant in any way. I'm a 14-year-old chick from Queensland who is home from school sick. It is not my fault that Google messed up, and it is also not my fault that you were too stupid to simply hang up and go onto their website and make a reservation. It's also not my fault that your dumbass thinks that there is any way in hell you are going to be getting a reservation for fucking Valentine's Day 6 hours beforehand. I then promptly hung up, and thankfully didn't hear from her afterwards. I think it was a week or so before that conversation that Google finally updated their number on the website. 3. Backstory. I have a DJ business that I've had since I was a sophomore in high school about 13 years ago. In the Rockies of that one high state USA, I recently moved away from my hometown to the land of many lakes and decided to continue the business here. About a week ago, I got a call from a friend asking about a job at a high school graduation party. I agreed, it's easy money. I even undercharged because I love what I do. Before I start, I do not fit into the area. I'm a big 6'4", 300 pounds, tatted, and I speak with a twang that I got from hanging out with too many Hispanics, my family, and ranchers. The people in this secluded puddle town are Finnish short Finlanders. Anyway, I showed up at 4:30 after the graduation ceremony and start setting up my equipment in the high school gym. I was doing the grunt and shuffle while people were taking pictures and mingling outside. Well, after I do my sound check, get my table set up, song list ready, and everything else I need to start the night, I go to change. I usually like to dress nice, no suit and tie, but good clean jeans and a button-down. After coming out of the bathroom, I talked with the vice principal, since he was the one who helped me with the paperwork side of the job. We talk about school districts, since I used to work for one in the colorful state, our love of motorcycles. Cue Short Mom. Short Mom comes power walking up to me, digs her finger in my chest and tells me, "It's too early for you to start showing up now. You need to leave and come back at 6 when everything is set up." At first I was kind of speechless and mad for some reason. I'm used to being yelled at and cursed out from previous jobs of security officer. But since moving here, I've only had the Midwest passive-aggressive confrontations, and this short Mama Blanca threw me for a loop. I look at the vice principal, and he just smiles and steps back. Looking back, I think he was curious to see what I was going to do, or he didn't want to get involved with Short Mom. Now, I have 2 tattoos visible on my arms. They are very noticeable. A sword on one arm, I was young and dumb, and a butterfly on my other wrist for my grandma. I also have a full beard. If anything, I look older than the VP since he was clean-shaven and probably could be my older brother. "Ma'am, Don't call me ma'am. All I want to hear is your footsteps leaving and coming back at 6. If I hadn't been desensitized to people's attitude for so long, I probably would have just walked off and tried to get the VP to explain I'm not a student, but do technically work for the school at the moment. My muscle memory kicked in, and my arms went from folded to my hips. Short Mom did not like this. She starts laying into me, asking me who my parents were, and how lazy her daughter's classmates were, and we've done so much as parents for you guys, and we don't even get a thank you. I was half tempted to give her my mom's phone number, who is currently living in the land of entrapment. She would get a kick out of it, and probably play along with me. Finally, she just told me to leave. I had an idea. I said, okay. So I went to my equipment that I just spent a lot of time setting up and started packing up. Short Mom yells from across the gym, "What the hell are you doing? That isn't yours." I calmly told the lady that the system is indeed mine, and that I have receipts and pictures of when I built it, to prove it's mine. She was having none of it. Enter in-event organizer, my friend, Tammy. "What's going on here? OP, why are you packing up?" "Well, this lady here told me to leave, and I don't just let my equipment stay where I don't know." "That's not yours and I can prove it." She picks up one of my business cards that I have on the table next to my laptop, takes out her phone and starts calling the number on my card. Her third or fourth clue should have been that my phone number's area code is still in Colorado, not Minnesota. My phone starts buzzing and I answer it. "This is OP with DJ Business Sound and Music Services. How may I help you today?" Short Mom looked pissed. I don't know if I just struck a chord or if her little angel's graduation pushed her over the edge enough, but I could almost see steam behind her eyes and licking through her ears. She spun on her heel and stomped off. The VP, who was lurking in the shadows, was laughing. The jerk was sitting on the bleachers, literally rolling on the floor laughing his finished butt off. My friend asked me what that was all about, and I told her, if that's how all the parent chaperones were going to treat me, I should have doubled my price. They laughed, VP laughed, I laughed. The soundboard laughed. It was a fun time. I've been chuckling at the woman's own denseness the last couple of days. I couldn't have planned or done anything to improve the outcome any better. Anyways, congratulations to all seniors this year, and don't forget, an apple a day may keep the doctor away, but a Karen may need something that can reach faster speeds. I don't know why she couldn't see the obvious signs that I wasn't a student. It's a pretty standard occurrence in this state. I've even been asked how long I've been a US resident, when I tell them that I am from New Mexico originally. 4. For backstory, a co-worker of mine, Amber, has been dating a bylaw officer, Greg, in the city where I live. When he takes his lunch break, he usually comes by to chat her up if she's on shift. Other than him, we don't get a lot of law enforcement out to our area of town very often. It's a normal day. I'm gathering up shopping carts in the parking lot. At our store, the area directly in front of the store is designated as a fire zone. There's yellow markings painted on the road surface denoting where the zone is, coupled with signs all along our storefront stating that it's a fire zone and there's to be no parking or even stopping within it. And it's well away from any legitimate parking spots. Despite the markings, though, and the signs, people still like to park there, usually just to grab a few things. Sometimes one person will park there and their partner will hop out to go shopping. Every time I'm out there, grabbing buggies, I always walk over and tell them, "Hey look, this is a fire zone. If bylaw swings by, you could get fined or owned." Most people look at me like they expect me to pull a tow truck out of my back pocket and nail them right then and there. I usually have to follow up with, "I'm just letting you know in case you didn't. If you want to park there, I'm not going to stop you, but it's your own fault if bylaw shows up." This is usually enough for most people to thank me for my diligence, park there anyway, and go inside. The odd person will snark back at me along the lines of, "What, do you think I'm blind? I know where I parked." And I just have to apologize over and over until they walk away. Today was different. This beat-up old Ford comes in hard and almost squeals to a stop in the fire zone. I just happened to be passing by with carts, thankfully, on the sidewalk. I don't want to imagine what might have happened otherwise. And I get his attention. He's easily north of 65 and probably enjoying his 70s. He's got a Friar Tuck haircut and whatever the male equivalent of a resting bitch face is. I can already tell, even as I'm opening my mouth, this is probably a bad idea. It was just a force of habit at this point. Excuse me, sir, this is a fire zone you've parked in. If bylaw comes by while you're inside, you could get fined or towed.
So? Bylaw never shows up. Who the fuck do you think you are? The fucking grocery police?
I'm already adopting the customer service apology face. No, sir, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I was just...
You're goddamn right you aren't telling me what to do. I've been driving a car since you were a disappointing rut for your mother on prom night. I'll park any damn well where I damn well please, and you're gonna do jack shit about it.
Sir, I was only trying to tell... And he cuts me off again. He gets right in my face with a finger.
You don't tell me goddamn anything. I tell you what's what, and you get the fuck out of my face and go do your worthless minimum wage bullshit job for the rest of your miserable, worthless life.
All I can reply with is, yes, sir. He puffs out his chest, glares at me, and goes inside. I look up as he's leaving, and who do I see pulling in but Greg? I see his bylaw vehicle, I look at the truck, I smile. I practically sprint to him. He sees me coming. Hey, Summiton up, how's your day? Terrible, I reply, but hopefully about to get a whole lot better. Why's that? I point at the beat-up Ford. This old a-hole just tore me a new one for trying to tell him he's parked in a fire zone. You mind giving him some karma? Greg grins. He loves sticking it to bullies. I can do that. He grabs his ticket book and heads over. It was hilarious. He started in on writing a ticket while I went about my business. The old guy takes his sweet time getting back out of the store, and he shows up just in time to see Greg slip the ticket under his wiper. I was inside the store at the time, so I didn't get to hear it all, but the old guy was screaming and cursing at the top of his lungs as Greg, who was responding to him in a composed manner, calmly explained the ticket process. He spoke to the guy for a few minutes, then went inside to see Amber. On his way in, I pass him by and say, "Whatever you drink, let me know and I'll have a case of it waiting for you in the cooler next week." He just laughed, shook his head, and went inside. It wasn't much, just a $150 fine, but it felt so good. 5. I currently work nights from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. at a convenience store in the center of my province's biggest city, and depending on the night, it can get very active. This was one of those nights where I was only able to do most of my other tasks after 3 a.m. So at the point that this takes place, I'm tired physically, mentally, and my shift is extended to 9 a.m. because that's when the other guy shows up. In other words, I'm already not in the best mood. Then this old man and another guy accompanying him enter the store, bearing lottery tickets. The second guy is mostly superfluous to this story. The center of attention is the old man. So things already start badly as I start scanning his tickets. And while most scan fine and even give him some winnings, one had his barcode messed up, so I couldn't scan it. So of course I try to tell him. He tells me to try a code that I can find on the ticket. Sure, why not? Except the only codes I find don't work. I tell him that, and all seems well for now. Though he does tell me to try again. Eventually, he just asks me to sell him other tickets. Everything is fine. For now. Because then he starts scratching his tickets in front of me, asking me to scan them. I don't have a problem with that, except that on the third ticket, he ruins the barcode again. So of course I can't scan it. However, when I tell him, he starts telling me to try again and again and again. I tell him that he just screwed up, but then he starts asking how long I've worked here, which is less than a month. He takes that to mean I don't know how to do my job, which is false. First, I've learned. Second, I worked the night shift at another convenience store before. I know how the freaking machine works. Luckily, I did have a manager from another store that had come to get some water, so I had someone to ask if there were some parts of the procedure I didn't know. So, back to the old man. I try to explain to him, again, that he messed up the ticket and it won't scan. He then starts interrupting me, asking me if I think he's stupid because he's a refugee, which I didn't know. Then starts asking for his money back, to which the manager tells him that since he's scratched it already, it's a used product. so we can't reimburse it. So I tell him that, and of course he's not happy about it. He tells me he's not going to leave until he gets his money back. He then tells me to call my manager, which, of course he does. The thing is, my manager doesn't take calls, so I essentially stood there in front of a man trying to explain the situation, while he interrupted me and seemed unable to admit he was wrong. There was also something else about me not scanning an item the other guy held without handing it to me, and according to the man, it was, of course, my fault. Then he ripped the ticket and told me again to give him back his money. I told him no, again, and after he went to throw his ticket away, I heard the sound of glass breaking. The thing the old man had thrown away his ticket into was a station where someone could scan their own tickets. There was a glass pane on top of it, with a hole where you can insert the ticket into the trash can. He made it fall to the ground. Now, he said it was an accident, but considering his previous attitude, the fact that this never happened anywhere else I've worked, that a ticket in pieces seems unlikely as a trigger, and that he then said he wouldn't be blamed for this, I would be. I have my doubts. After that, I was pretty much done with his shit, so respectfully told him to take his shit and leave. After a few wishes of me getting fired, very nice, and a few threats of calling the cops, he left. I sat to cleaning the mess of glass he left behind, then told the assistant manager about this situation when he showed up. Luckily enough, I work for one of those bosses that care more about their employees than kowtowing to awful customers. I think what bothered me the most about this whole thing, outside the possible vandalism, was the man's sheer inability to admit he was wrong. Just do it. It's not that hard. Later, the assistant manager checked the cameras, and apparently the guy really did willingly break the thing. It also shows him as being the one at fault. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, number 64. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'd appreciate it if you took a moment just to click on the like button, and if you'd be so good to share the video around with anyone you think might enjoy it. Okay, let's see, I think we have a birthday shout-out today, so let's see. Yes, we do. Okay, today's shout-out goes to Vicky, and Vicky is 64 years old today, so let's all wish Vicky a very happy birthday, and I hope things go well for you, Vicky. Now, as your birthday is a bit later in the week, you tell everybody that Hellfreezer's given you permission to celebrate right through until next Thursday. Them's the rules. So I expect cake and yummy things, and then more cake, and possibly a salad because of all that cake, you know. Oof. Anyway, I'd like to sing happy birthday to you, Vicky, before we head off. So here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vicky. Happy birthday to you. Alrighty, yeah, and I think that brings us to... Oh wait, no, before we go, why not? Let's spoil ourselves. Let's have a Hellfreezer's question of the day. Okay, do you prefer hot or cold weather? Assuming you're in a position of having the luxury to prefer either. Personally speaking, for me, I prefer it to be cold, because generally I find it easier to heat up. I live in a decent house, I've got central heating, I've got fans and everything, but I find it a lot harder to cool down and stay cool, where it's easier to heat things up and stay warm, I generally find. Although that being said, I do generally like it in the summer weather when the sun's out, even though I'm meant to avoid sunlight, but I do still like it when it's sunny. But I don't like the heat so much. Let me know what you think in a comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.